Hello there and welcome to the Drowsy Dragon. Whether you're just jumping into Mythic Plus dungeons for the first time, or you're well on your way to pushing to Keystone Legend, these tips are relevant for everyone doing Mythic Plus in Midnight Season 1. And with this being quite possibly the easiest Mythic Plus season ever, it's a great time to jump in and push some keys. Sometimes the hardest thing is finding a good group of people to play with, so stay tuned for the final tip, which is all about the best way that you can do that. Let's dive in. First of all, prepare. Now, you need to know what dungeon you're going to do. Is it your key you're going to use, or are you joining a random group with someone else's key? Knowing the dungeon and the mobs inside and the bosses is kinda crucial, and if you go in there having no idea where you're going or what the bosses do, you're going to end up causing a wipe and probably not timing that key. You know the saying, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. So do some research. At least go into the dungeon on normal or heroic, but ideally at least Mythic 0 before you step into it on Mythic Plus. That way, you'll be familiar with the layout of the dungeon and what the mobs and bosses inside it can do. You could also watch a video guide for the dungeon on YouTube before you dive in as well, or very least just have a look in the dungeon journal for the boss abilities to see what they can do. Another thing to prepare is make sure that your talents are set correctly. Most classes have quite a varied set of talents that are best to use when going into Mythic Plus, compared to, say, their raid build or the PvP build, which can mean you either do more damage throughout the key, or you're more useful to the group through having things like different crowd control options, for example. You cannot change talents when the timer starts in the dungeon, so make sure you've got the right talents before it begins. And then think about consumables. So for lower keys, there's no real need to spend thousands on consumables, but as you push higher, it's definitely beneficial to make sure you're using a flask, maybe have some potions to boost your capabilities too, like DPS pots, and other things like weapon oils, health potions to help with those tight healing checks. You don't need to blast a ton of gold on these things, like the mid-tier potions are absolutely fine, the silver ones. Also consider things like emergency soul links, which you can buy off the auction house and can be used by anybody, even if you're not an engineer, and these could save your group from a wipe. Make sure your gear is repaired as well. But as a backup, it's not a bad idea to have some auto hammers, which you can use in the dungeon, just in case you can't mount up and use a repair mount mid-key. For example, in Windrunner Spire, where you can't get on a mount. The second big tip is to communicate. So, yeah, you're a team in this dungeon, and you're gonna need to talk to each other. If you're with friends, jumping into Discord with them is ideal, but if you're pugging or with randoms, you still need to talk to each other at times. For example, you're with a warlock and he's not putting down hellstones before the key starts. Just ask the guy. If you're wondering when the group should use Bloodlust in the dungeon, just say, Bloodlust on first and last boss, and see what the guys say. Maybe you're the tank and there's the option of going left or right at the start of the dungeon. Tell people so they know which boss is coming up first, as this might change how they use their cooldowns. And on that note, we did of course lose a few add-ons that gave us information about our party cooldowns, so your tank might not be pulling as big, wondering if your cooldowns are ready to go again or not. If this is the case, just say that in chat, that your CDs are up, or something like that, so your tank knows that you guys can now blast through a bigger pull next time. If somebody has come in unprepared, rather than flaming them, I get it, it is annoying, you're better off just quickly typing some info that might help them. For example, stack up when intimidating shout happens, or stand in the soak, I'll ping it. Just communicate with each other and you'll have a better time. Tip number 3 is to interrupt spells that need kicking, so use your kick. Now, people not interrupting is perhaps the most frustrating thing for all Mythic Plus groups, as it's something so simple that can prevent many deaths and stress for your healer. Every DPS and tank class has an ability that can interrupt spellcasting. Now, one thing that caster mobs in dungeons do is cast what are well known as bolts, or bolt spells. Now, these are regular spells that the mob will cast, but the difference is they will target anyone in the group, so that's why sometimes, if not interrupted, a random DPS player gets targeted by a couple of bolts at once and gets deleted from being at full health, and everyone's sat there wondering why it happened. Because no kicks went off. If you're new to WoW, we call interrupting a spell kicking the spell, so you'll commonly see things like kick the fear, or kick the AoE. Ideally you want to rotate the group's kicks, because they do of course have a cooldown, So normally the tank will interrupt things first because they're normally in the middle of all the action, but then theirs, of course, is on cooldown. So the group is relying on someone else to do this, and it's down to the DPS mainly. Do of course be careful not to all kick the same target at once, because then everybody's on cooldown and now you're going to have to wait or use some other abilities. Which brings us to tip number 4, make use of CC. So crowd control abilities like Freezing Trap and Typhoon have been ways to control mobs in a dungeon all the way back since classic WoW, and in modern WoW they're still just as crucial for dominating dungeons. Now all classes will have various CC abilities they can use. As we were saying, if your interrupt is on cooldown, you could use another ability to perhaps stun that mob, or disrupt it with a spell such as Incapacitating Roar or Tail Sweep. Do take the time to become familiar with what your class can do, and make sure that you use those abilities. They are often best staggered, because if you pop all your crowd control abilities at once, then again they're all going to be on cooldown and the mobs are free to do whatever they like. So pay attention to who's using their CC, and then use yours in a sort of rotation at key moments. For example, if 3 spellcasters are currently casting a bolt, it's a great time to either kick one of them and then use some CC on the others to stop the casts going off. And then tip number 5 before we talk about the best way to find groups is to simply use your cooldowns. I know this might sound silly, but there's some things going on here. So if you hold on to them for too long, that is a bad idea because you're going to do overall less DPS. The way that you can think about your damage and cooldowns in a Mythic Plus dungeon is not from pack to boss as individual segments, but instead treat the dungeon run as one single instance of you doing damage, so treat it all as one pull, because those times between pack, pulls and bosses do matter. If you held all your cooldowns for the boss fights, then you may have wasted 2 or 3 uses of them while you were fighting the trash mobs, meaning you've done significantly less damage across the whole dungeon. So don't be shy, pop those cooldowns regularly and make use of them, and you'll all have a better time. There are times of course where you shouldn't just blast them on cooldown. For example, you're killing the last 2 mobs in a pack and a boss is coming up next. Yeah, save the cooldowns for the boss, that makes perfect sense. But in general, try not to delay them for too long. And if you paid attention to the first tip in the video and came prepared, you'll know the layout of the dungeon and what's coming next, helping you to plan your cooldowns properly. So let's say you're doing all these things great and you're really making a big effort to do well in Mythic Plus, but the big issue that you're having is finding an actual dungeon group of people to play with that aren't all toxic. So one good idea is to join a guild, which is always a decent option. Find some like-minded players and play with them, but if you don't want to join a guild, or maybe you're in a guild with people that you don't want to leave, another option is joining a Mythic Plus community. The top 2 ones I would recommend, if you're in the EU like me, you have No Pressure, which is fantastic, I'll tell you all about it in a second. And if you're in the US, there is the WoW Made Easy community as well. So the way that No Pressure works is that you go in there and join the Discord server. There's a bot that you can use to either join someone else's key or list your own key. Now there's different categories, you've got keys from Mythic Zeros to 2 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 9, 10 to 11 and so on. Now before you jump into keys, everybody agrees to a set of rules, which basically equate to don't be an arsehole and be nice. When running keys or raids with No Pressure, you have to make sure that you only do it with No Pressure group members. So this just ensures that everyone's read those rules and we're all on the same page. Now if you want to list your key, you can do /LFG in one of the Mythic Plus channels, and you can list who you need for the key. So maybe you've got 2 DPS in your group and you just need 1 more DPS, a tank and healer. So specify it that way, and then it will create a listing on the page. And then people can sign up. So you can see here, it gives you a bit of a random name to use when you create the listing in the group finder. So you create that listing, for example, these couple of names here, and then the people that sign up can see that name in the in-game group finder, and they'll get given a certain passcode to use as well. And this is how you know that it's not just a random person signing up, but it is the actual person from Discord. So look out for people signing up with the phrase, and those will be your guys from the No Pressure community. Wait till the group's filled up and you're good to go and do your dungeon. Now, I genuinely can say I have never had a single bad dungeon run whilst doing keys with this community. And at the start of the final season in the War Within, I was able to push higher in my Mythic Plus rating than I ever have done before, thanks to the really super chill and very capable and competent guys in the NOP Discord. So highly recommend this, guys. Do check it out if you're struggling to find groups or if you're anxious about doing Mythic Plus for the first time. This is a fantastic place to start, and you're going to meet a lot of like-minded players as well that just want to get keys done without any toxicity. So there we have 5, well, kind of 6 key Mythic Plus tips for anyone doing Mythic Plus in Midnight Season 1. I hope you found this video helpful, guys, and if you do have any questions, please do drop them in the comments below, or come and say hello in our Discord server and we'll have a chat over there. I do also now stream, mainly on Thursdays, but some bonus days every now and then, so please do come over to Twitch and leave us a follow on there, but I do multi-stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same time. If you did enjoy the video, please do leave it a like and subscribe to the channel for more guides and content all about World of Warcraft from me here at the Drowsy Dragon. Thanks for watching, guys, have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers!